our mission statement is to empower dentists. We want to build a tool that is smart enough that can gather all of this information and it can help dentists make the right decisions while not having to overly stress about the business side of the practice. More just focus on doing the clinical work. Let us help you with managing and growing your practice for you.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of the Raving Patients podcast, sponsored by the Doc Sites and Cloud Dentistry. As you know, I'm your host, Dr. Len Tao. Today, I'm really excited. I have a fellow dentist, a fellow entrepreneur, a fellow tech person who I'm going to be interviewing. We are talking to Kareem Osman today, who is the co-founder or the founder of Kasper, one of the newer products on the market. We're going to learn more about his journey with a startup practice. We're going to be talking about why dental schools don't teach us business acumen. We're going to talk a little bit about his product, Kasper, and how it's different than everything else in the market. So, Kareem, thank you for joining me today, and welcome to this episode of the Raving Patients podcast.
Thanks for having me, Len. Happy to be here.
So, to begin with, Kasper is a newer product. We'll get more into Kasper soon for those that aren't aware of what it is or what it does. But first off, you have a really interesting background, somewhat similar to me. So if you can just spend a couple minutes talking about, how you got into the space, obviously about you have an amazing startup practice in New Jersey. If you can talk a little bit about that as well, that's what I want the listeners to understand before we get into the other content we're going to be talking about.
Cool. So originally, I actually didn't even want to be a dentist. I was on track to go to medical school. When you grow up and you have Egyptian parents, they only give you really two options. It's either you can become a doctor or you can become a doctor. So, I was originally in college with the intention to go on to medical school. And a good buddy of mine, he was studying for his DATs. And he's like, listen, there's a really good opportunity to work for this guy that I work for. He'll, pay really well. Just come and get some, hours under your belt. Volunteer work. And I ended up working with him. It was actually a dental office inside of the mall. So it was pretty weird. And I honestly just fell in love with dentistry, the way it's really hands-on and, the way the patients were. This guy had really good relationships with his patients. And when my friend told me that, listen, the DAT is pretty straightforward. I've never been a really good exam taker. I can study and know everything. I show up to the exam and it just, those really difficult questions stumped me a little bit. So when I found out that DAT is it's either you know it or you don't. It's not an easy exam, but it's either you know it or you don't, And I excel at those types of things because I do study, and I am capable of being able to retain the material. So took the DAT, I did really well, switched over to dentistry, went to dental school, used to flip houses when I was in dental school because I knew that, the loans were crazy, and I've always had that entrepreneurial side. My parents thought I was literally crazy. I would literally leave school. All my friends are going to either lunch or dinner or whatever. And I'm like, no, I got to go meet a contractor or the guy screwed us over. Now I got to go do the landscaping with my friend of mine who we were doing it with. And I'm not even exaggerating. We would go pick up the manure, and I would be doing landscaping after dental school because we had to get the property on the market. And I loved every second of it, and we learned a lot. Got scammed for hundreds of thousands of dollars from contractors, but I learned a lot of discipline along the way. And it was never about the money for me. It was about the journey. So things like that really started to develop my inner, character. Graduated from school, worked for a year for a DSO, hated it. And I actually left dentistry. My buddies have been always telling me about getting into crypto and how it's going to be going to $10,000. And they're like, at that time, Bitcoin was $700. They're like, this is your last chance to get into crypto before it goes to 10K. And this was in 2017. So I left dentistry for an entire year. I focused on cryptocurrency. I started with $25K that I had saved up from that 1 year of being an associate. I went all in. I'm a very risky person. And, it panned off really well for me. I was able to pay off all of my loans. I was able to have some money to send to Uncle Sam and then actually open up my own practice in 2019 in my hometown in Scotch Plains. And that's really my journey in dentistry. I would say entrepreneur at heart, clinician by passion. I like being a dental clinician, but what I love to do is I love being an entrepreneur.
Perfect. I really love that story. It's I've never shoveled manure, but I've always worked from the day I quit at 13 years old. I had a baseball card business. I was making $60,000 a year. as a 13-year-old kid. I knew when to sell it. So I sold it before I went into college at 17. Obviously got into, dentistry, started my own review product. So I've had a very similar road. So congratulations on your success so far. So you graduated school in 2016. So I'm much older than you. I graduated in 99, so 17 years earlier than you. But when I was in school, they didn't really teach anything at all about business. And you know that running a dental business is a very hard thing. We have to do everything. We're CEO, we handle payroll, we handle all these different things regarding an office. So what is your feelings about the lack of business being taught in dental schools?
Yeah, 17 years later, I'll tell you that nothing has changed. And even more than 17 years, because my cousin's actually in dental school right now over at NYU. And, I understand, I know everybody's always bashing on dental schools on why don't they have a, business curriculum. When I was in dental school, I actually used to have the toughest clinical instructor. And people literally told me, like, in my first year in D1, they're like, you should just drop out right now because this guy is going to make you want to literally jump out of a window. He definitely lived up to the reputation, but he made us an exceptional dentist. And when I think about it, after graduating from NYU, I'm like, yeah, just like what you said, there's no business courses, there's nothing. But at the same time, there wasn't even enough time to learn all the dentistry. You graduate, and then you're like, oh my God, I'm kind of scared to work on patients. Do I think it's a valid excuse? I don't. And I do really believe that, for me, I don't feel like there's enough continuing education courses that emphasize the importance of getting continuing education from a business aspect in dentistry. I would love to see more educational courses on that, where the same way we go to learn how to do veneers and, cosmetic cases and full mouth rehabs, where is that nice weekend seminar on how do I build $1 million practice and, know how to manage my team? Like you said, take care of payroll, hire and fire people. All of these things, what I've come to realize from opening up my practice is that in order to have a successful practice, everything has to align. You have to provide an awesome patient experience. You have to have a really good team. You have to have a competent clinician. You have to know how to collect money and bill to insurance. And I'm like sitting there, I'm like, you really can't make any mistakes, to really build that dream practice that every single, successful dentist talks about. And the younger dentists or even some of the colleagues that have been in practice for some years, they look up to it and they want to replicate. There's just so many things that have to go right. And add on top of that, practice management, student loans, all the other things that we feel as dentists, patients that are, never happy. And it's always the patients, obviously, that you give a discount to. They're always the first ones to complain and cause a headache for you. And you're like, man, dentistry is freaking tough. Dentistry is really tough, Len.
The dentistry part is actually easy. Running the business is the hard part. If you had just had to go in and do dentistry, that's the easy part. But having to literally do everything you just mentioned and a whole lot more, that makes dentistry stressful. That makes dentistry difficult. It means that you're not just going home after you're done in the office. You've got to run the business part of the practice.
You're right. And I think that's the biggest disconnect is that I don't think dentists don't want to have business acumen. Even if they don't have the tendency to open up their own practice, we want to know how to manage our finances. How do I save money? What are different options for me to invest my money? There's just so many business questions, even if you don't want to be a practice owner, that I really would love to see, some of our, industry experts start putting on courses to teach. And guess what? Every young dentist wants to learn it because they're knees deep. NYU, I was reading an article a couple of weeks ago, $700,000 plus for the graduating class in 2026, $700K. I graduated, I had a scholarship, I graduated, and I got out with about 300-some thousand of loans. And the crazy thing is that I was paying $3,000 a month before I paid off my loans. I was paying $3,000 a month, and I would log in every single month. I would check my Nelnet statement, and my balance was going up. So imagine you're making $500 a day as an associate, making $120,000 a year. My net is probably like 90, maybe even less, right? After everything is said and done with taxes. Then I'm paying an extra $3 per month. That's another 36,000 gone. I'm left with $50K. And here you are, you're looking at people like, your friends, and they didn't have to go through anywhere near the loans, the stress, the dental school. And, they're making 150, 200 grand a year out of school. So it's really tough. I think we're in a great profession. I love our profession. I think you can make a lot of money in our profession if you're ethical and you really have a high level of integrity and you know how to open up a nice practice or even work for a good practice. But to get to those things, it really isn't easy.
No, it's not. It's not. It's really interesting. And one thing people who are listening and watching this know, I don't really self-promote myself. I don't use this forum as that. Just so people know, this is being recorded in June. It's not releasing until October. So I'm happy to announce it now, or to you, Kareem. So you're actually like one of the first people that is hearing about this because we're recording it in June. You mentioned that you wish that someone was doing a business seminar. So I actually I'm putting a seminar down here together in Delray Beach, Florida. It's like September 29th and 30th of 2023. So it's next year. Okay. It's called Supercharge Your Dental Practice. The first day is all about the marketing side of dentistry, and the second day is all about the business side of dentistry. So it's basically a marketing and business boot camp over 2 days down here. So if you are interested, there should be some information out there at this point, but I'm just letting you know, because you had mentioned it without even discussing it with me. I've already planned this because I know how difficult running a dental business is, and then trying to market on top of it. You're losing money left and right if you're not ready to market your business, if you don't know the business side of dentistry.
Me and you, we didn't even discuss this before, and this is literally like right off the cuff right now. But for me, I think it's important for the colleagues like yourself to kind of give back to maybe some of the, younger dentists like myself that are brand new in the industry, because you've been through that life cycle. I know you're getting ready to transition out of the clinical dentistry aspect. You can provide, sometimes when you hire a consultant, they're not a dentist. They've never worked, which is fine. Some of them have amazing advice, but there's nothing like somebody that rolled up their sleeves. They know what we deal with on a day-to-day basis. And, that's how we can relate to our colleagues. And I think
100% so.
When sales guys come in or whatever, sometimes, they're just like, but doc, it's just an extra $300 a month. He doesn't understand, or she doesn't understand. I have another 100 other $300 a month things that I have to take care of.
Agree with you 100%. Yep, 100% so. I just wanted to make sure you knew about that, because you literally just were saying exactly what my plans were. So that was really good. Good timing on that one. So I want to, before we get into Kasper, I want to talk about kind of your startup practice, because I've never been there, but I've seen pictures of it. I want to say you went all out in designing your startup practice. A lot of startups amaze me. That are new. I bought an existing practice. The dentist had passed away. I gutted it and redid it, and I was heavily in debt, but I had a big patient base already. When you're getting a startup practice, you're doing all this with the hope that patients are going to come in. So talk about your startup journey, because you have an amazing facility. So can you talk to the people? I know we have a lot of startup practices who do listen to this, a little bit about that in particular, the startup that you did, I should say.
So I probably spent a year going between acquisition versus startup, and having found a really good location in my hometown. There's probably like 7 dentists. I'm not even exaggerating, within a 2-minute drive. There's one literally across the street. Like if I literally was to open the door and walk across the street, an established practice there for 30 years. And, I would like to believe, it's funny that you bring it up. A memory just came up to my head. As soon as I graduated dental school, I sent a pitch deck to a private equity organization telling them, like, listen, I think that the future of dental practices will be like these really fancy practices that provide this really awesome patient experience. And this was before any of these guys, And I was like, I would love to raise like $5 million. We can open up like 5 practices. We'll start with 1. I just want you to fund 1, but commit to 5. And I think we can build something really special. That was before I even knew about DSOs or any of that. And, the private equity firm, they thought it was interesting, but they're like, this just isn't it wasn't our thing. And I thought, like, it's not even worth pitching it to other people. They're probably going to turn it down. And then just a couple years later, I see 10, they go raise like $150, $200 million to redefine the dental experience. I have nothing against those guys, but patients today, it's really easy when you build this like, spa-like or really fancy, like a type of dental practice. If you're opening up in an area where, even though there might be some established colleagues in that area, I really do think that you'll be able to take some of their patients. Because first of all, by 2025, the statistics show that 75% of the entire workforce force is going to be millennials. So things are changing. Most of the current owners right now, they're at that last 5 to 10 year stretch where they're either thinking of, selling their practice or bringing on a partner, like a younger partner to take over. So I think the opportunity right now is really amazing for both acquisitions and startups. If I was to do it all over again, I would personally just choose a startup, because I think if you open up in the right demographic and you target yourself in the right way, people like new things. It's hard in the beginning, but if you can build that, credibility, and you can build your reviews, I know you're part of Bird Eye. If you implement, the right tools in your practice so that you can build a really good social reputation for yourself online, and you're willing to get through that initial 6 month, 1 year kind of, hey, I'm not really expecting to take much home. I'm willing to be in that position. Maybe I'll blow up on day one, but I'm willing to battle this out for an entire year. I think you can do tremendously well having a startup practice. And I've been extremely fortunate in my practice. We've been doing really well since we've opened up.
Can you talk a little bit about some of the things that you did in your practice that from the startup perspective or from the design perspective that like I said, I saw pictures when people are in your office, so I know it's exceptionally put together. So can you just go over a couple of those things so the listeners and viewers can understand a little bit more?
So it's like with everything, Len. You go to a fancy restaurant, they make a fire show with the food. Everybody pulls out their phone, they're taking videos, and then you watch it on Instagram and you tell your friends, "Oh, where is this?" You don't even ask, "Is the food good?" You just say, "Where is this?" Because you want to go have that experience. And I know it sounds novel and silly, but that's the world that we live in. So we have a Starbucks machine in my practice. We pay $100 a month for it. It makes you fresh brewed Starbucks, makes you lattes and cold brews and all these different things. I've rented for $100 a month, but guess what? Patients come in, we have the Starbucks cups, we have the whole 9 yards, and patients come in, they'll take a picture. We see them in the waiting room taking a picture "Oh, my dentist has Starbucks. My dentist, I make a fresh." And I know it sounds crazy and silly, right? I know it does. But somebody will see something like that. "Oh, my girlfriend comes to your practice. Oh, my wife recommended you guys." And they'll always send in, what we've noticed is the wife will always come in first to make sure it's safe. She'll make sure, all right, this is a new practice. Let me make sure. If she's happy, then you'll see the husband coming in, the kids coming in. Yeah, my wife came here a couple of weeks ago. She loved it. And she brings in the whole family. So there's so many cool things that you can do, like reaching out to patients that just moved into your town. We support the local police department, fire department, and not just on the holidays, 4, 5, 6 times a year. We'll just send them pizza. "Hey, thank you for your service." They'll go around and they'll post a picture of us on Instagram. "Thank you so much, Scotch Plains Family Dental Care for," we do raffles. I go on the Facebook groups. Other dentists, whenever somebody's asking for a dentist, they're "Oh, come to me." We never do that. We never say, "Come to our office," but we'll regularly post on the local Facebook groups, "Hey, we're doing a giveaway for 2 movie tickets. We're thinking of a number between 1 and 500. We never ask for anything. We only give. And I think if people stop changing their perspective from always asking to start giving, they'll start to realize, oh my God, people are way more receptive to actually reciprocate that once they feel like you're a giving person. And it has to come from a genuine place. It's not like a marketing ploy or whatever. Some of these patients, by the way, or some of these people that we give giveaways to, I'd say more than half of them never come to us. They never switch over to us. But every single time SPF Dental Care posts, people know that there's a giveaway. SPF Dental Care never posts asking for anything, though. In their head, we've triggered it. When a post comes up on the local groups, there's a giveaway. And then you'll see 500, 600, 700 comments. And that's, for me, like smart ways to do marketing that other people typically aren't doing. And once you do it, it's hard for other people to jump in because now they just look like a copycat, you know?
And what's really interesting, before you even said that, I was going to make a comment that, one of the advantages someone now getting out of school usually has over other practices is something that's referred to as social capital. You can get a following online and you can use that following to help you grow your business. And that's exactly what you did. You built the following and now you said they're conditioned to see when you post, you're giving away something. You're not asking for anything. So it's very interesting. Social capital is an amazing phenomenon people have that are newer, that older dentists don't have. And that's a huge competitive advantage in my opinion.
Len, we have an associate that works at my office. I'm not going to say his name because I didn't ask him for his permission, but he has about 120,000 social media followers on Instagram, and he'll literally get people that message him and they're like, I want to do braces, how much is it? He'll message them the price over Instagram Patients show up and they get the work done. Hey, I'm looking to get 6 units of veneers done. This is how much I charge per veneer. Can you imagine your treatment planning? You haven't seen x-rays, you haven't seen anything. There's no case acceptance, but it's just because you have that social proof. You'll tell somebody, oh, it's $2,000 a veneer. I want to get 6 units. Okay, it's 12 grand. So you've already kind of presented the treatment plan. You know they're financially willing to pay for it. They show up and the case is, I know it sounds crazy, but it is the world that we live in. And then, it's insane. It really is insane.
So 2 things real quick that you triggered when you said that. So I was just on Instagram and I'm just building my Instagram following. And I saw a reel come up, and I'm not going to mention this dentist's name. He's in Texas, but he's got a huge following on Instagram. And they posted a flash sale, a veneer flash sale. And he said there's only 20 patients available. You can get anywhere from 10 to 20 veneers at like $780 a unit or some number like that. And literally there were so many comments. I couldn't believe it. He has 26,000 followers on Instagram, but it was amazing. All these people were making appointments via Instagram. It was unbelievable to me that you can use that as an outlet, because I never looked at that from a business perspective, like from a dental perspective. And the second thing is, you described, this, I would call it social proof, or you have the social proof on Instagram, or your associate does. It's similar to a situation that occurred in my office, where a patient called me up and says, Dr. Tao, I've chosen you as my dental care provider. No joke. He says, I've read all your reviews online. You're my dentist. I need a lot of work. I was in an accident when I was younger, and I need basically all my implants redone. So he literally invited him for a consult, no charge. He comes on in and he says, again, I've chosen you. Just tell me what we're going to do and how much it's going to cost. So literally the case was like $30,000. It was something like $29,000 or $30,000. He goes, hold on, I'll be right back. He goes to his car. He opens up a suitcase and puts $30,000 in cash in it and comes back with it on his wrist as like literally a handcuff. And here's $30,000. Here, let's get started. Or when can we get started? That's the same type of thing here. That's what social proof creates.
It's true. And I mean, you only see it. I mean, I'm not endorsing it, but you see all these people come up now, like they say, like we do like all these different types of social media, like money generating platforms, whether they're selling, whatever they're selling, right? But they're like, we make so much money becoming influencers or promoters. Some of these influencers get paid $5 grand, 10 grand just to post something for you, Some of these salaries, it's $1 million a post, and it is, but people see other people doing things and they want to follow along.
So I know we've been talking back and forth about, and this is great. I love these types of podcasts. So I do want to spend some time talking about Kasper. So can you kind of give, for those people that don't know who Kasper is or what Kasper does or what it is, can you talk a little bit about it, how it came to be, what you're trying to accomplish, how you're different than others on the market? Can you spend some of the remaining time on that, please?
Sure. So when I opened up my practice in 2019, we were using Weave for telephony, and we were using Yappy for paperless forms. Both companies, I never had any issues with them. I was very happy with their services. We wanted to do online scheduling day number one. I just didn't know if I could afford an extra like $200 or $300, and I think the only company out there at that time, at least to my knowledge, was Local Med. And then analytics, obviously, how's my practice doing? I knew that Dental Intel was the big player that I would see online. But if you wanted to get all four of those companies, you're talking $1,200, $1,300, $1,400 a month. I was paying $550 alone just for Weave, and I think Yappy was like $200 or maybe $150, something like that. So you're already $700 a month in, plus whatever you're paying for IT. You have the Open Dental monthly support. You're paying already $1,200, $1,300 a month on top of everything else. And I always, I would always ask like my partner in the front, I was like, man, why isn't there just like an all-in-one platform? Are you sure there isn't an all-in-one platform? And there really wasn't. And I'm like, why hasn't somebody built it? And it was just an idea. It was just something we would joke around about, never really materialized. And then COVID hits. 2 days into being at home, I was going crazy. I am a workaholic for sure. To my wife's, like demise, she doesn't really like that part of me, but I can't sit around and just not do anything. And I called up my friend and I'm like, listen, man, remember that idea that I've been telling you about? What if we like actually started looking into it? Looks like we're going to be home for the next month. And we thought we were only going to be home for a month at that time. We ended up being closed for 3 months. And, we put a plan together. We started, pitching it to some of the agencies in New York City. I was looking for a really premier agency to build it for us. I have obviously no tech background whatsoever. So I wanted, even though I knew I would be paying a premium, I wanted somebody that can really like knock it out of the park. We hired an agency. We spent $3 million to build the MVP for the platform. And we actually, as of 9 months ago, we absorbed that entire agency. We bought them out. So we bought all the talent. We bought them in-house for Kasper, all the developers, the designers, and everything like that. And we built the first all-in-one voice over IP, paperless forms, online scheduling, and analytics platform that, doctors can just pay one convenient monthly fee for, and they can have all of those services under one hood. We have a really aggressive expansion strategy into other features that we want to bring to the market that don't exist today currently. So that's what makes us the most excited about Kasper, is that we've been able to roll up a lot of the things that maybe multiple providers will give you all into one platform. And, something that hits home with me has always been supporting younger guys and younger girls, younger dentists coming out of school. I know how hard it is because I used to pay those $3,000 a month loans and the stress and all of those things. So we have something called the scholarship, where we actually pretty much give Kasper for $299, phones, forms, online scheduling, analytics for the first 2 years to help you get up on your feet. $300 a month to get all those services. And, our strategy is, our mission statement is to empower dentists. It goes back to what we were talking about in the beginning of this conversation. We want to build a tool that is smart enough that can gather all of this information, and it can help dentists make the right decisions while not having to overly stress about the business side of the practice. More just focus on doing the clinical work. Let us help you with managing and growing your practice for you.
I think that sounds great. I mean, so a couple of things. You mentioned the scholarship for, I guess, startups. You said it was $299 a month for basically 2 years. Talk about a little bit about. I know that it's only available at this point for open dental users. I do know that. I don't have a vast knowledge about the product, but as you mentioned, you would replace, in essence, a Yappy or any type of patient communication software. You would replace the voice over internet products as well. You have analytics that would replace dental intel or practice by numbers or anything like that. So you obviously have another type of all-in-one solution that's a little bit more extensive than some of the other ones on the market today. But you are only open dental, which obviously, but the startup groups are very much into open dental. And honestly, if I was starting a practice now, I would either go cloud or open dental. There's no option. I wouldn't go to the Dentrixes or EagleSofts anymore. I would switch to something differently myself. So is the main thing that you're trying to accomplish here, really to create an all-in-one solution, or is it to, we touched on this briefly, to expand to other practice management softwares down the road? Where do you see Kasper kind of fitting in? Because obviously open dental is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, but it's only, again, a smaller practice management software compared to the behemoths like EagleSoft and Dentrix.
I think from studying a lot of what the other companies, and I consider them my colleagues, what they've been able to do in the space, and that's why I started off by saying, using Weave and Yappy, I've had nothing but great experiences with them. I never had any issues with them, and those were like the forefathers. Those are the companies that came out when nothing existed, and they were providing practices to come into that 21st century digital, health tech sphere when there was no other option. So first of all, we're incredibly grateful for them paving the way. I think Kasper is just kind of here to say, hey, we want to kind of take the baton and bring it into the next level, which is the artificial intelligence. Our platform does not have artificial intelligence right now, but our name is Kasper AI. So part of our future roadmap is we want to have artificial intelligence. And there's a lot of cool ways that we plan on bringing that. We're actually building some of those things right now. And it's just like you said, automation is the king right now. Everybody wants to automate everything, and the more that things are automated and, less of a headache for the end user, that's where companies can really build, great things. And we're just excited. I believe this market is actually so big. I was chatting with somebody before, and I'm like, there's 200,000 dental offices in America. To my knowledge, the largest VoIP company in the space right now is Weave, from their reports, they have about 20 to 25,000 offices across different verticals across the nation. So that means there's another 170,000 offices, 175,000 offices that are not even on voice over IP.
Correct. Yep. And I told you I had posted something in the group about that. So there's so many offices not using voice over internet protocol. So
yeah, and that's why I feel like so many companies, they're just always focused on fighting or competition. Guess what? There's enough for 20 companies to be unicorns in this space, and everybody can come with their own unique value prop, and everybody can actually have their own unique. It's just like there could be 5 dental offices within a 2-minute drive, just like I told you. Those practices didn't go out of business. They're doing well. We're doing well, and it's just, I think the greatest thing that we want to do is we want to contribute to the profession. We don't want to come and say, hey, Kasper is better than everybody else sucks. No, we look at those companies and we learn a lot from them, and like I said, they've built the framework. We just want to be able to create our own market for a specific user, and that's why we care about the UI, we care about the user experience. We're providing a different experience for different types of clientele. And I think that's really what sets Kasper apart. And it's what's been helping us really grow a lot of traction is that, obviously price point makes sense. The platform is really easy to use. And to be honest with you, Len, I think the fact that, I'm a dentist, I really try to be as helpful online, to a lot of these colleagues and stuff like that. We never push. We're not salesy. This is our platform. If you love it, great. If you don't love it, we have no contracts. We have a 60-day money-back guarantee. We want people to talk about us. Same thing like I told you about the Facebook thing for my dental office. We're not posting, hey, come and sign up for Kasper. We're just saying we want to give something to the community that we believe has never been done before. And if you think it's a great fit, awesome. And if it's not, guess what? There's other companies out there that provide amazing services, and they'll be wonderful to work with as well.
I commend you on that. I have one last question, and then I want to do a couple of minutes of the Q&A we talked about. But where does the name Kasper come from?
So the name Kasper, it actually means the guardian of your treasure. And we want offices to know, we want them to trust Kasper as the custodian of your most valuable possession. Your most valuable possession when it comes to a monetary perspective, if you're an office owner, is your practice. It's your baby. You invested your whole life, your education, your career, your money, your savings into building it, maintaining it, growing it. And, that literal name Kasper is the one that's assigned to protect your most valuable possession. And we really want to be that custodian or that guardian of your practice for you.
Perfect. Okay. All right. Let's switch to the Q&A. I'm going to go through some questions here and just real short answers. And then we'll wrap it up. So what book have you read multiple times that you highly recommend?
Good to Great by Jim Collins.
You're like the second person in a couple of weeks to recommend that. What do you wish you had known when you first started out?
So when I'm doing crypto, building the office, doing real estate, dealing with contractors, I really didn't think there was anything harder. Building a software company, Len, I promise you, it is 1,000 times harder than building a multi-million-dollar a year generating dental practice. Because if I give you a house and it's crooked, you can smack that contractor and tell them that's a crooked house. If somebody gives you garbage code, it's all mumbo jumbo. Anyway, you don't even know what it does. But guess what? Patients are getting 1,000 text messages in the middle of the night, and you get a phone call of people cursing you out. So tech has definitely been, now I know why companies pay hundreds of millions of dollars instead of just building their own tech, because to get a product to that level, there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that go into it.
That's great. All right. If you were to write a book about yourself, what would you name it? It's always a tricky one.
I don't have the exact name, but the theme would be the ones that, receive the most are the ones that give the most. And that's just something that I've lived all my life. It's a principle that I genuinely live by. And it's never let me down. I give people, I don't expect anything in return. And I always just end up getting so much more back. It doesn't necessarily mean money or whatever, but just you get so much more than than just always taking. Be a giver, don't be a taker.
So this is interesting. Follow-up question, and these are random, by the way. I don't select these. What is the one thing that you will never give up on?
I want Kasper to be the number one, most known practice productivity platform in the dental market. Not because we want a crazy valuation or we want to have a crazy exit or we want to be ringing the bell on the New York Stock Exchange. I want to do all those things. I would love to do all of those things because how many people can say they've done those things? But I want to be able to walk into a room and see dentists that I've never known, I've never met, I've never interacted with in my life. And they're like, because of what your team has been able to bring to dentistry, I've been able to build a practice and scale it and growing and achieve that success that I never knew that I had the capability of doing. And I want that to be genuine. Like, because I'm going to tell you right now, paperless forms, online scheduling, voice over IP, none of that stuff helps you make more money. Those are all convenient things to have. They're nice, cool things to have. But, they won't make you be that superstar dentist. And at Kasper, we want to crack that code so that when we give you a piece of, software that you implement into your practice, you say, oh my God, this transformed my practice for me. This showed me exactly what I needed to do. It helped me do it, and it guided my team on doing it. And, if we can accomplish that for the profession, I think we'll have accomplished something that's really great.
That's great. What one skill or trait do you feel is imperative to be successful?
I always say failure is not an option, and success is not hope is not a strategy. So failure is not an option, hope is not a strategy. And I think a lot of people go into entrepreneurship, whether it's opening up your practice or doing anything else, and they're not willing to go face to face with failure and fear. And that's part of every single business owner's journey, is tremendous failure, tremendous amounts of fear. And, people always say, well, I don't want to take all these L's. I actually came up with something I told my friend. If you put two L's together, they make a big W, So it's okay if you have a lot of L's. Keep on putting those L's in the bag. And if you put them together, they're going to keep making W's for you. But you just have to have that right attitude and just be relentless, never give up. People in the beginning, they're probably not going to pay attention to you. It's okay. Just keep going, and that's the heart of a champion, is that they never give up.
Okay. Last question. What kind of culture exists in your organization, and how did you establish it?
So we have the same culture that we did in my practice. If you walk around my practice, we have a lot of quotes about family, respect, and we're able to establish really quickly that this is an extremely professional organization. We are going to give you a tremendous amount of respect, integrity, honesty. But at the same time, we are looking for, people that value those things. There's patients that come into my practice and they want a discount because they don't value the work. You can tell. There's patients that come into my practice and they genuinely cannot afford the treatment. I'll do their treatment for free, So there's a fine line between somebody that needs genuine help. I'll be the first one to help you. And then there's a fine line between people that just don't value your service, and they're the same people that will tell you, oh my God, a crown is $700, and then they have like a $10,000 Rolex on, or they're wearing, they bought I have a lady who wears like a $30,000 or $40,000 Rolex, and she needs one implant and she won't get it. She's like, so it's value, and you can't show value to people. So our biggest thing in our practice and in Kasper is building a product that attracts the type of people that we want. We want people that when they come to my dental practice, they want ethical care, honest care. They want doctors that are going to give them their undivided attention, that are going to charge them fair pricing. They're not going to take advantage of them, and they're going to do work that they would do on themselves. And that's the same commitment that we do at Kasper. When some of these doctors are talking to us, they're like, well, you're new. How do I know that this thing works? And I'm like, I was the first office to ever have Kasper. We went through all the crap, and we built it knowing that I know how detrimental it would be if my phones go down in my practice. Why would I wish that for somebody else? If my paperless forms are not syncing properly with my practice management software, and now my team is spending 3 hours with support, I wouldn't wish that for myself. So when we're making decisions at Kasper, it's never about, hey, let's just push something out just so we can get it out to market. If it's not perfect or as close to perfect as it can be, then it's not ready to go out. And I think if you just maintain those principles, you'll be extremely successful in anything that you do. Social proof, man, it goes back to what we've been talking about. We live in a world right now, people have their binoculars on you, and you can screw up your entire reputation with something super easy. If I'm telling you all of these things and somebody, okay, Kasper sounds great, and then they go search me up in my office, I have terrible reviews, my patients hate me, then what does it mean? It doesn't mean anything, So the whole story has to add up. You can't fake that. There's no such thing as fake it till you make it. Not in 2022 at least. That's becoming very slim. People are catching on to that trend, and it's a dying quote that people like to or used to like to say.
Well, I got to tell you, the episode ran a little bit longer than I wanted it to be, so I apologize for those listening and watching. But it was an awesome episode. Before I wrap it, how can people reach out more to learn more about what Kasper can do for them, or even if they want to reach out to you? I know you said you're a giver. If they have any questions and they want to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to do that?
So they can follow us on Instagram, Team Kasper. They can add me on Facebook, Kareem Osman. I'm pretty, popular on the Facebook groups. And they can always reach out to me by email, ceo@meetkasper.com. And whether they sign up for Kasper or not, any younger docs that are listening to it, I coach and I help literally hundreds of dentists for free. I don't want anything back from you. I just want you to go out there. If I can teach you a couple of things, some of the mistakes that I've made, and you can use that to open up a practice that you're proud of, then we've done something awesome for our profession together.
Well, this was great. Thank you so much for talking about your journey, talking about Kasper. Obviously, if you have interest in learning more about Kasper, please reach out to Kareem and his team, and I'm sure they'll give you or tell you what they can do for you, and then it's up to you to decide if you want to move forward or not. But this was a great episode. If you like the episode, please share it. Please share it on social, recommend it, tell your friends and family, tell everybody about it, put it onto the social waves. Review us on iTunes so more people subscribe. Anything you can do would be great, and I would ask that of you. Even though I'm a giver as well, I still ask that of people. But as I always end my episodes, always remember your reputation matters. Until the next episode, Kareem, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll talk to everyone soon.